rights. And so I hope that you all take this intentional time on our campus to really get young people out to vote. Time and time again, we see that young people feel as though their political efficacy is very low, that their vote doesn't matter, that their voice doesn't matter. But it's time that we wake young people up, show them that yes, there are actions you can take to impact our democracy. And thank you. But it starts with every one of us. It starts with you talking to your friends, talking to your classmates, your colleagues, the people you work with and that you live with in your community. So thank you for having me today. Please just don't forget what's on the ballot this November and what's at stake here. And I thank you all for this opportunity. Thank you to AFT for your support today. But please challenge yourself. Where can we do more? How can we do better? And how can we fight for this great state that is currently in jeopardy? Thank you so much.
She has a phenomenal energy for the voters that are out there that she represents, so I'm very excited to see her running in this position. Next, I'm very excited to introduce a dear friend of mine, Representative Christina Shelton. One of the things that I really value about Christina is the fact that we know there's an election every 2 years, but the work is done in between. And Christina and I work very closely on developing legislation that supports our students and our communities. We have honest conversations about what is happening, and we look for the solutions that are within that. And we've seen that through the work that she has done as her first term in the legislation. So Christina, I am very excited to have you here tonight.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It's great to see you. What a beautiful day to gather together to stand in solidarity for our public schools and our higher education institutions. It's wonderful to have AFT and AFT Wisconsin here. Randy, thank you for, look at this bus. I don't know about you, but I'm getting on that bus when I'm done, so you can join me. And we have Governor Evers here. We are standing together as educators, as education champions to make sure that our Wisconsin schools move forward, not backward. For the past, I've been in this education field for 20 years. So 20 years ago, I took my position as a student teacher in a high school outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And since that work, I have been fighting for public ed and higher education institutions. Now serving in the legislature and as the 90th Assembly District Representative, I have been your voice and the voice of this community, fighting for issues like fully funded public schools, increasing reimbursements for special education, supporting teachers by increasing pay and improving working conditions, and supporting the growth of unions and restoring the right to collectively bargain. These issues are central to making sure that not only do our students have what they need, but that our teachers have what they need as well. So when I'm out in community and I'm talking about education, and by the way, I've got 2 kids in the public school district, one at East and one at Aldo Leopold, so I see this every day in my own children, and people ask me, why is public education so divisive? And what do we do about it to make sure that our kids and our teachers have what they need? And the answer is really very clear, and there's 2 answers here. The first one is we have to commit to fully funding our public education institutions. We have to fully commit to that. But equally so, we have to restore the dignity and the professionalism in the teaching field. Because if you've been following this issue, you know that there have been people on the far right, reactionaries. They're trying to divide us, right? They are trying to use fear, and they're using hateful rhetoric. They're calling teachers, and I'm just going to say it, they're calling teachers pedophiles. And they're attacking your academic freedom to keep you from educating your students. Why would they be doing this? Why would they aim and attack teachers in public schools? And really what it's meant to do, it is meant to turn us on one another and meant to force families to really doubt what they know to be true, right? And that is that families and parents overwhelmingly support their teachers in their schools. And they know that. And so they are using these tactics of fear and violence and intimidation and open records requests to divide us, because they know when they divide us that they can just not only dismantle public education, but they're going to dismantle one of the last remaining public institutions that binds us through common values, right? That binds us because they know that public schools unite us. They know that our public schools are the thread that keeps our communities together. So it is an incredibly good thing that we have a governor like Tony Evers, our education governor. It is a great thing that we have teachers and educators running for office and young people like students like Hannah Beauchamp Pope. And great that we have other pro-public education and pro-higher ed candidates running across Wisconsin. Because really what this is, it's about public money for public schools and public oversight. It's about restoring trust in our teachers and in the craft of education. It's about ending the goal of the extremist right to privatize our education system, rapidly expanding the voucher system, which, by the way, Tim Michaels has said it's the definition of insanity to put more money into our public schools. That's awful. I think that's actually insane, Mr. Governor Evers. I mean, that's crazy. It's crazy stuff. So I know there's a lot on the line. You know this, that's why you're here. But we have to continue to work together, friends. We have to fight for one another. We have to stand for with one another. We have to inspire the fight in others, because we need to build an army of people who know that the majority of us stand on the side of the issue that fights for kids, that fights for teachers, that fights for families, that fights for economic security, and that fights for democracy. And we need your vote on November 8th, but beyond that, we need you to stick with us, because this is going to be the fight of our lives. Thank you.
I'll cross off all my talking points now. She nailed everything. I'm very excited to stand here today and introduce you to our Governor, Tony Evers. I was a classroom teacher for 17 years before I became the president of AFT Wisconsin. When I became president, I served on a committee at the Department of Public Education, and I remember walking into that committee room feeling very intimidated. I was a teacher from Superior, and I'm sitting in a Madison government building. And I sat down with some amazing experts. There were parents, there were teachers, there were community organizers, there were people representing our tribal nations, there were district administrators from the universities, there were faculties, and I was sitting there amongst all of these folks. And Tony Evers looked right at me, and he was in the role of state superintendent, and he says, "You need to be here." And I have thought about that space every single day that I interact with Tony on the work that we do. Tony, I appreciate your voice for public education. I appreciate your vision for public education, and what you do for all students in this state is create opportunities that are supported through resources, through funding, and through their opportunity moving forward. So thank you for the work that you do, and I am incredibly excited by the work that we can accomplish together in a second term when we work to advocate for all students. So Tony, I'm very excited to shake your hand.
She's the best.
Yes.
She's the best. AFT Wisconsin right here. So thank you, Kim. Very kind introduction, and obviously Representative Shelton, all the things you said and the great work that you've done for the folks here in the Northeast Wisconsin. And Hannah, it is so neat to hear your voice and what you said. It was just keep on keeping on. Please do that. Anyway, this bus is focusing on what kids and communities need, and it's exactly what I talk about every single day as governor. What's best for our kids is what's best for our state. If we invest in our kids, our state will be stronger. And that is the way we've worked it, and it's actually worked. For folks that may discount achievement, actually over the last couple of years, during a pandemic, folks, we went from 18th in the state, or in the nation, to 8th in the nation in achievement. That you think about those, and it was a common effort between kids and teachers during an extremely difficult times that brought mental health challenges to not only kids but to adults also. So during that time we did the best we could, and And we actually did provide some significant funding, not only for our K through 12 world, but the technical college world, as well as higher education. The highest ever, frankly. But every time I say this, because then people will scowl at me because they know it's not enough. But the bottom line is, we had 8 years of Scott Walker, right? And we had significant cuts there. So we've got to a better place, but we've also got a lot of ways to go. And we've been, during the pandemic, we were able to provide federal money, even Trump money, to our higher education institutions and our K through 12 institutions in a way that really made a difference in kids' lives and students' lives. So my next budget is going to be coming up after I win this damn election. And I made a commitment to the state superintendent, Jill Underly, that this will be the best K through 12 budget ever. Made the same commitments to our people at the technical college area and also our University of Wisconsin system. It is time. We have the largest surplus we've ever had in the state of Wisconsin because of some significant investments we made during the pandemic to make sure small businesses and farmers and others got the resources they need to kind of get through it. Right now we have a $5 billion surplus in the state of Wisconsin. We're usually in the red, which is a good starting point, folks. We have lots of needs in the state of Wisconsin, and we're going to continue to invest in our schools. And I'll go talk about the K through 12 world. We are going to bring $250 million around mental health services for our kids across the state, and that's going to be an ongoing piece of legislation. We're also going to be having the largest increase we've ever had in special education. Kids with special needs need that. This is going to be a big budget for them. It's also going to be a big budget for our municipalities also. So let's talk about what's at stake in this race. And if you're living in Wisconsin, you have to know these things. As Christina mentioned, my opponent said that bringing more money to our public schools is the definition of insanity. So I'm guessing he's not with us. Just taking a wild guess there. He's actually gone so far that he is going to be taking 40% of public school money out of our public schools. That is defunding our public schools. There's no question about that. He wants to abolish the Department of Public Instruction, and he's okay with having loaded guns on our K through 12 campuses. There is a lot on the line this next year. This election is going to be very, very important. I feel very confident we're going to win. But at the end of the day, it is about turnout. It is about turnout. And whatever we can do on our campuses and across the state of Wisconsin to make sure that our students understand the importance of this. I'll give you another small example. Right now, there are 11 Board of Regent members that were appointed by me on the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin system. And the same holds true with the technical college system, the state board. They were appointed by me, the majority. If I am not successful, my opponent will take out 9 Board of Regent members in one fell swoop. So the governance of the board of the University of Wisconsin system is on the line in this election. So make no mistake about this. We've done everything in our power to make sure that we have a strong and viable school system. Frankly, someone asked the question or brought up the issue about, respect for teachers and our university staff and our technical college staff. Yeah, got to give them respect. We got to pay them more too. I mean, this isn't just a one-way street. Respect and pay come in the same venue. So I am so glad to be your governor, and we're going to win this race, but we're going to need to get people out. So thank you so much. Appreciate that. You're going to introduce me.
As a part of this afternoon's events, AFT is very proud to partner with AFT Wisconsin and UW Green Bay United. The campus cupboard does a lot to support students and faculty and staff on this campus, and sometimes we find ourselves in need that we were not expecting. AFT and AFT Wisconsin are going to make a $5,000 contribution to the campus cupboard, in addition to 1,500 hygiene kits, so that families have what they need, when they need it, and the support that they have. But we need to have a governor who's going to invest in higher education so that it is affordable and that students can make the choice to stay in school when some of those difficult situations happen in life. And with that, I am extremely excited to introduce you to Randy Weingarten, the president of AFT Wisconsin. She is, oh, sorry, AFT, yes. President of AFT.
I haven't gotten promoted yet.
Yes. She gets to ride the bus all across the Midwest in the United States promoting voting. That's what this comes down to. This comes down to us turning out the vote. It does not come down to some of the things that we're hearing on social media and from our other candidates. This comes down to turning out the vote. We know what is on the line, and we know what we are fighting for. Now we need to make sure that that shows up at the voting box, and Randy is one of the best cheerleaders to be out there supporting that and the work that we do. So Randy, I'm very excited to have you here.
Hey, Randy!
So, can I take this out? You notice I did it first, and then I asked. I am so delighted to be here, and I can't believe it's a balmy 45 degrees. But I want to say a couple words about Governor Evers. I don't remember if you remember this, Tony, but you and I were testifying together way back when on investment issues. And, I was all the way at the end of the table, and I had not met Governor Evers before then, Superintendent Evers. And in his and there were a majority Republicans in this, my recollection is, it was a Senate hearing. And in your very soft-spoken, focused way, you took every single question, kind of like what your opponent does, and you eviscerated the questions. Not the questioner, but the questions. Talking about and making it clear the importance of every single student, like the students who are here right now, and painting a picture about what education is and why it was so important, and the need of both respect and investment to make that real. And I remember going back to the office and saying, because I had never met the then superintendent of public instruction, I remember calling Kim and like, who is this guy? And can he run for governor? And it was just that's the kind of leader you are. And it's not a surprise to me that even with a huge problem of a legislature that, obstructs you every single day, more Christina Sheltons in the legislature, more Hannah Beauchamp Popes in the legislature would be helpful. But in that, the fact that you were able to navigate with the help of AFT Wisconsin and all of our college affiliates and our healthcare affiliates and so many other unions, I see the steelworkers here now, the fact that you were able to get funding for what is important in the middle of a pandemic when we need to help our kids soar. We need you to win re-election. So Kim talked a little bit about what we're about to do in a few minutes, but it reminds me that we were just in a couple of weeks ago, Milwaukee, with the FAST funds, and doing the kind of work to help kids, young adults, stay in college. Their professors working to ensure that kids stay in college. Professors who may be going paycheck to paycheck themselves, who are precarious labor themselves, helping kids. That is the covenant. As Heather said earlier, that's the Wisconsin covenant. That's the Wisconsin that I remember watching from New York growing up with. That's the Wisconsin that, regardless of whether one was Democratic or Republican, let's put Senator McCarthy aside for a minute. Sorry, I am a social studies teacher. That's the Wisconsin that we watched before Scott Walker eviscerated it. So it's pretty clear in this state what the stakes are. The stakes are everything. Democracy is on the ballot. All of our freedoms are on the ballot. As Christina said before, can you imagine, and Kim and I have had this conversation as well, how is it when kids really need to read and to be joyful in reading that these extremists are trying to ban books? Books like The Diary of Anne Frank, books like The Story of Ruby Bridges. Why would anybody try to ban those two books? What do those two books do? What they do for young kids is they give them empathy about other kids, cross racial lines, cross religious lines. Why would anybody try to ban a book that I remember reading when I was a kid and I am now a dinosaur? Why? Because it breaks empathy. It breaks empathy. It doesn't let you walk in somebody else's shoes. Why are they trying to cut education? Why would they try to cut 40% of education? Because how else do you create critical thinkers and have pathways, technical pathways, and college pathways for all kids? If you cut 40% from schools, you're not going to have any of that. Class sizes will be huge. Special needs kids will have no resources. Because there's not, on the other side, a commitment to children, a commitment to families, a commitment to opportunity. And frankly, yeah, cost of living has gone up. I just got back from Ukraine and Poland. We know what Russia is doing. We know what Saudi Arabia is doing. We know what China is doing. Who do we want who's there every single day trying to solve these problems for us versus people who are trying to stoke resentment and not solve them? And they're telling us who they are when they say that they're going to cut Social Security and Medicare and not do what we need for child care, for education. Believe them. So the stakes are huge. Who's there? Who's going to help solve problems with us together, having agency and respect? And who is going to just stoke resentment? That's the choice in Wisconsin. And like every other race in Wisconsin, it's really, really close. It's really, really tight. Frankly, conventional wisdom would say that wouldn't be so tight. But it's tight because people know who Tony Evers is. And people know who Christina Shelton is. And people know who Mandela Barnes is. But, and I'm looking at you, the students who are here. This is your future. We got to get out the vote. Because elections really matter. And those of us who lived through Scott Walker and the crash and burn know that. So we're going to do our thing, just like we did the FAST funds and contributed there, just like we're going to do that today in terms of dealing with the cupboard, the campus cupboard and closet, and making sure that things are available in a non-stigmatized way to lift opportunity. But we all got to do our parts here. And our parts here over the course of the next 19 days through November 8th is to take that voice, Hannah's voice, your voices, Kim's voice, Christina's voice, and we have to do everything in our power to make sure that Governor Evers is re-elected, that Mandela Barnes is elected as U.S. Senator, that we bring Wisconsin forward, not backward, with real policymakers and problem solvers who in their heart and in their head do, as Christina said, bring people together, bring communities together. Just like on this campus, just like in public education classes throughout the country. We are the nation builders, bringing people together so that kids and young adults and families can have a better future. Every single one of them, regardless of who they are, where they live, or who they love. Thank you.
I'm fortunate enough to travel to a lot of schools, to be in a lot of communities, and to talk to a lot of families. And I can hear it and I can feel it in the voices that I've listened to. When we get out and vote, that gives you that power to change how you're feeling, to have a vision, and to work towards your hopes and dreams when you have elected officials in office that hold the same values and the same hopes and dreams. November 8th is so critically important. Your voice is so critically important. And your friends and your families around you, please get out the vote. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Very excited by the work that we have ahead of us and the opportunities and what we can do in the next 4 years with a governor like Tony Evers. Thanks, everyone.